Hey there, this is Adam from The Highest Return, and I'm joined today by Damien at the PSA.
What's up, guys?
Damien, why don't you introduce yourself and what you specialize in?
Hey, Adam. Yeah, thanks for having me join. I'm Damien. I run a website called thePSA.co. I drop public service announcements about money, investing, and travel. Glad to be with you.
Thanks, Damien. For some of our audience here, we actually jointly started thehighestreturn.com many years ago, probably about 10 years ago at this point. And
And then you kicked me out, right?
pretty much, I think Damien got lost interest. He was focusing on the important things, and I ended up scraping up the domain. And but you're back at it. You're back into social media after a long hiatus, and
Back in
I'm
the
super
saddle.
excited about it, especially as we join Powers again. Uh, Looking down 10 years into our life. So,
Yeah.
so today I'd like to talk about a topic called fire, and it used to be a lot more, I guess, popular a few years back, but I think there's always a constant interest in what this thing is. And so, Damien, how about you tell us what fire is?
Yeah, sure. So we're all kind of on this journey towards retirement, right? Someday we'd like to stop working, enjoy the fruits of our labors, and relax. And so FIRE is sort of a mental framework and a community of people who are trying to get there faster. So FIRE is an acronym that stands for Financial Independence, Retire Early. And it's a group of people who are coming up with strategies and techniques in order to save money quicker, invest more of it, and get to retirement earlier.
That I would like to do that. One of the things that I think about when I think about retiring early is you never really know how long you're going to live or how long people around you are going to live. So fire might not just be about, you know, cruising out in a yacht or doing something like that. It might just be not devoting so much time to things that you don't really find meaningful to you.
Yeah, exactly. With FIRE, you can make what that independence means to you. So it could mean cruising on that yacht, or it could just mean that you have to spend less time at work and more time with your family. Yeah.
Excellent. So for people that are new to fire, I guess the big question is how much money do you have to accumulate before you retire?
Yeah, that's one of the first questions that people have to answer when they figure out when they can retire early. So people come up with what they call the FIRE number. This number is based on a couple of rules of thumb, a couple of mathematical calculations. One of those is what's called the 4% safe withdrawal rate. This means that once you have a big pile of invested money, you can safely withdraw 4% of it every year to live off of. And that money should last at least 30 years. Sometimes it can last even longer than that. So using the 4% rule, we get to another rule, which is called the 25 times expenses rule, where in order to figure out your FIRE number, so the big pile of money that you need to have invested, you would first figure out your annual expenses, multiply that by 25, and that number is your FIRE target. Once you hit that number, then you should be able to retire and live off 4% of that pile of money for at least 30 years or perhaps the rest of your life.
So I know I work from home, so that's made calculating what my expenses would be a little bit easier because
Mm-hmm.
I don't have to drive out every day. And I think that number for me, based on what you're saying, 25x would probably be less than 3 million, but more than 2 million
Yeah.
to live comfortably.
Yeah, I think so. One example is think of a person or a family that spends maybe $6,700 per month. If you multiply that by 12 months, that gets you to about 80,000 a year in expenses. Multiply that by 25, and you're looking at a pile of $2 million would be your FIRE number.
Okay. Okay. Great. Um, so what about the haters? I mean, haters are going to hate. What do
Sure.
haters have to say about fire and why it's not a good idea?
Yeah, there's a lot of naysayers. There's a lot of doubt around it. $2 million sounds like a lot of money, right? And people think that you have to have these unreasonably high saving rates in order to get there. There's people at both ends of the spectrum that kind of give FIRE a bad name. So there's the people who live super frugally, even cheap, you could say, and they are having sort of a poverty standard of living that they plan to live on in retirement. That's not appealing, right? No one wants to live like that.
Right.
Also, if you're trying to get to FIRE faster, you're focusing on earning money and investing that money. So it could lead to burnout if you're trying to work tons of hours. You don't have a social life anymore because you're just focused on hitting that FIRE number.
I see. So I guess naturally there's a spectrum of FIRE. Like there's the sort of hardcore FIRE versus sort of the casual FIRE. Can you explain the different types of FIRE to people?
Yeah, for sure. The community's come up with some fun little variations of FIRE. One of them I already kind of talked about. That's what people call lean FIRE. These are people who are looking to live off of less than 40,000, maybe even just $25,000 a year. So people that expect to have a very low standard of living, but they intend to get there really quick because it requires less money to hit that FIRE number. That's lean FIRE. I don't know about you, but that doesn't sound all that appealing to me. What do you think?
I know that it's not an option for me because of, well, my wife doesn't cut on certain things like food and groceries, and we would feel very uncomfortable doing a lot of things that, folks on the lean FIRE do, such as cut back on meats, for example, or lower, live in a smaller house, maybe Airbnb one of the rooms out. Just where I'm at with my family, it's not an option on the table.
Yeah, me too. Exactly in the same boat. I think it might be a strategy for people who are single or people that don't have kids. But once you've built up that family and have that standard of living, it's hard to back down from it.
Makes sense.
So
I was just thinking, like, I wonder if you could say you could do lean FIRE without cutting everything out, but just say, well, I'm going to move to a really cheap area in the world. You could say,
yep.
well, I don't need to save this much and live in the US. I could save half as much and live in a place that's a third the price.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I've done. So I used to live in the Boston area, coastal living, super high cost of living. Now I
Okay.
live in the Indianapolis area, so the Midwest. The cost of living is a fraction of what it was on the East Coast. So that is one way that I've shortened the time to get to my FIRE number.
That's great. So after lean FIRE, is there like a middle ground, or is there like a casual FIRE
Yeah.
category?
Yeah, there. Next, we come to my favorite category, which people call coast fi or coast fire. So the idea here is that you spend a lot of time early on aggressively saving and investing. And then at a certain point, you've got enough in your retirement accounts that by the time you reach retirement age, 62, 65, those investment accounts have grown on their own to meet that FIRE number. So you work aggressively for, say, 10 years, and then you downshift or coast for the rest of your working career with maybe a job that requires less, maybe pays less, but gives you a better type of lifestyle. And then you coast until you get to retirement age. That's one that's appealing to a lot of people.
That's kind of baked into, well, not really, sort of baked into the 401k system. If you max out your 401k every year, hypothetically, you'll get to a point where you could choose to coast, where I don't think they'd ever advise you to stop contributing, but I guess it's always possible.
Yeah, at a certain point, you can run the calculations and by the time you get to retirement age, you'll have the number. Any more that you put into your retirement accounts could lead to a more luxurious lifestyle, or it could be money that you leave to your heirs at the time of your death.
What is the rate that you use to calculate that? Is it a 6% return, or is it a 5% return?
Yeah, it could be anywhere between 6 to 8%. There are calculators online that let you play with that calculation. And there's so many variations in what it could be based on what you're invested in.
So is that 4% rule based on a 6% return? Or what?
Yeah, I
I mean,
think
if the
it's
market's going down, then you can't say that you can withdraw 4% and your investment stays the same. What is it
exactly.
assuming?
Yep. The 4% safe withdrawal rate was a study done by a guy named Bill Bengen Viewers can look up that study to see all the calculations that went behind it. But he used a variety of returns through different 30-year windows of stock investing, I think mostly in index funds. And so those were the investment strategies that he took into account to factor in the 4% safe withdrawal rate. And I really call it a rule of thumb, not a rule. If you are flexible in retirement and can adjust your withdrawal rate between 3 to 4%, you have a much higher chance of it lasting a longer time.
Okay. And I guess so based on which industry you're in, that might affect you as well. So if you get a pension, which is pretty rare these days, you might be able to lower that amount that you have to save because you can sort of count on your pension, especially if it's from the government.
Exactly. Yep. Pensions are rare these days, but it's a guaranteed defined benefit that you'll receive upon retirement, usually until the time you die.
Excellent. Excellent. Well, I really appreciate you talking about fire. So you're taking the, what is it, the Coast Fi approach right now?
Yeah, our family's doing Coast Fi. So I spent about 12 years in the software consulting industry, high-paced industry. I was paid well, but I had to work a lot of hours. And now I've actually downshifted into the public sector. So I make less, but I also have to work less. And if I don't contribute anything else to my retirement accounts, I'm on track to have enough before I hit the 62-year mark. So I would consider myself Coast Fi.
Awesome. For me, I would say I'm looking at these. So lean fire, no, not being too frugal, except not spending money on dumb things. Like I never buy luxury anything. The most luxury item that I buy is my phone, the iPhone. Let's see, fat fire, extremely high savings rate, focusing on life of luxury, retirement. No, not really. I would say it's basically what my strategy is bought a few rental properties, used 30-year mortgages, and when those run out, I'll be set. They're paying for themselves. And well, they're paying for my mortgage here at this house as well. So
Nice.
of all my rentals, it's paying for the mortgage of this house that I live in right now. And I got started in 2018 about getting those. So if you take that, 30 years from then, they'll all be paid off, and that would be enough to cover my living expenses. I also have money in the 401k, the retirement accounts that are sort of on track to be at the number where I can also do the safe withdrawal when I retire. But anything in excess of that, I'm putting towards a down payment of a new rental property. So I basically set a certain portion aside every month to go towards buying a new rental. Where before I started getting into rentals, I would just put those in index funds. So that's my strategy. It's kind of a hybrid. I also do individual stocks, kind of for fun, and options, and I talk about them on my channel, thehighestreturn.com. But I'm still part of the same mindset as everybody here in the FIRE movement. Is ultimately nobody's going to think for you when it comes to your investments. It's not something that you necessarily get trained on when you join the workplace, but it's very important, and it can drastically affect the trajectory of your entire life.
For
So
sure.
that's why there is a need for this content, and we need to be the ones to help provide this to the world. So before I sign off here, any good books or reading material? Give me 3 books you think people should read.
Whoa, 3 books. All right. So the first book I always recommend is called I Will Teach You to Be Rich. The author's name is Ramit Sethi. And it's a short book, but it goes through everything. It goes through credit cards, so optimizing your credit cards to earn bonuses, paying off debt. Consumer debt would be the type of debt you'd definitely want to get rid of. Saving and investing. It's a really good book that covers a wide range of things and is a simple read. Really, that is the one and only book people could look at.
Can you repeat the name one more time? And I'll put it in the comments.
Yeah. I Will Teach You to Be Rich by Ramit Sethi.
All right. I Will Teach You to Be Rich by Ramit Sethi. My book is, well, it's just kidding. I was looking at something. My favorite book is Rich Dad Poor Dad. just because it gives you it's a call to action book, and it goes into drastic terms to make you understand that you don't want to stay in the E quadrant the rest of your life. You want to start getting your money into the I quadrants, if you want to have some more control over your own life. And I think that actually does help me as an E as well, having that stability, so that you don't encounter what I call worry sickness. So yeah, just change your mindset, take a step back, and understand where you are.
Robert Kiyosaki, right?
That's right.
Nice. That guy
Hi,
has some
Damien.
cool glasses.
Oh yeah, yeah. Thank you so much.
All right. Good talking to you, Adam.
Peace.
See ya.